There's a saying in English that when the going gets tough, the tough get going. But what really keeps the tough motivated? Let's ask the cards today on Life's Potluck Buffet. I'm John Paulus. Thanks for joining me. Okay, so in full disclosure, I drew a card just now from the Life's Potluck Buffet deck to answer this question, and card 28, Passions Are for Hobbies, came up once again. Now, if you've been listening along with our show, you know that I have drawn this card now. What is this, the fifth time the deck has had me draw this card? And I promise, deck, I know that you're trying to remind me that, think about what work you do for self-care and think about what work you do for paid work. I am definitely doing that. Everybody out there, please, if you're not doing this, please do it, because the cards are going to keep on reminding us every time. So I am going to honor the fact that card 28, Passions Are for Hobbies, came up once again, and I'm going to put it on the bottom because I have cards. I've talked about this card so many times. So I think we all got it. We all got it. I mean, obviously the cards think that we haven't gotten it. So let me just read this one last time for anybody out there who needs to hear this, and I'm gonna throw it out there. Here we go. Passions are for hobbies. It is very bad advice to follow your passion to a job, or to turn your hobby into your job, because hobbies and passions are work that we do for ourselves, not for others. For that reason, they are best for self-care and not for paid work. Do them with that idea in mind. So if you need to hear that, think about the distinction between things that you're doing for self-care and things that you're doing for paid work. That means that those are things that others want from you. And listen, if you'd make a buck doing a self-care thing that people pay for, that's cool. But understand the distinction between self-care and paid work. And think about what your passions are, and think about how they help you and no one else. Because that's honoring the fact that we have items that we need to do for self-care that we don't need to do and for monetary purposes. And if it ends up there's a little bit of money involved in it, that's cool. But I find in my life, and if you need to hear this, I think the cards think someone out there needs to hear it. So maybe that's you. If you need to hear it, get in touch with what is done and what you are doing and what you do passionately that ultimately is for yourself, and what you do that others need and want from you. Okay. Cards. We will hope that takes care of that. All right. Let me draw another card to talk about when the going gets tough, the tough get going. I realize the cards keep putting me in a tough position in order to figure out what I'm going to do. So thanks, cards. And what I'm going to do is continue to talk about it. So I guess see we're in a little bit of a stalemate. All right. So I'm going to do 3 casual shuffles, as I always do, rearranging the cards from top and bottom. Okay. And I'm going to split the deck. Cut the deck. I guess split the deck would be like sawing it in half or cutting it in half. But I'm cutting the deck, as we call it. Oh. No, that was a really bad shuffle, but that's what we got to do. We just had a little bit of a bad shuffle. And there's a gap here that I'm going to look into here. I hope it's not Passions Are for Hobbies cards. Please. Give me a break, cards. Okay. It's not. It's card number 3. That story you just told about someone else was about you. Cards. Cards are killing me today. They always kill me. Okay, so yeah, I get it. I get that. I get that was about. Well, let me read you card number 3. And this can be motivation for what happens when the going gets tough. This is becoming a very meta episode about the going getting tough for me with the cards. So, card number 3. This is Life's Potluck Buffet rule number 3. That story you just told about someone else was about you. When we speak ill or well of others, we ought to consider in what way we are talking to ourselves about ourselves. Pay close attention to the stories you tell about others, both when you complain about them and when you praise their actions. By understanding what others do that either annoys you. Okay, so the audio just turned off in the middle of me reading that card. So the cards, they're really making the going tough for me today. I got to tell you, I see what we're doing here. This is something. Well, that was annoying, as I was just, of course, at the part where we're talking about things that are annoying. So think about what story you just told about someone else and how was it really about you. We talked a little bit about this yesterday, and I think that is something that is very much worth thinking about. So we got it, cards. All right, let's draw one more card, because this obviously episode is now about the going getting tough for me in an episode. The cards want to see me sweat and see how I do. So I know cards. Here we go. Now I'm going to shuffle again casually 3 times. 2, 3. Okay. And then I will cut the deck and shuffle them one last time. Can't believe the audio turned off. That was a little bit crazy. Okay. So now this is, wow, these cards are all over the place. Now this is making it very difficult for me to figure out where the gap is. I guess it's right here on top. I'm gonna look at that one. Okay. Oh, wait, that was this card. All right. So here we go. Oh, the cards. Card 38. You are what you hate. This is one of the most, for me, this is one of the most challenging cards of the Life's Potluck Buffet deck. So I can see why the cards, of course, made me address it, because it's one of the ones I have the hardest time kind of addressing. Yesterday we talked about love and hate, and we talked about how there were two sides of the same coin. And the card 38 asks us to think about a job that we criticize or claim to despise or even look down on, and be honest with ourselves about that. And then say that we are that job and understand what we are feeling about that job and why we were feeling it about that job, because that will have us get in touch with what the job is that we actually might need to go towards. As you know, with Life's Potluck Buffet, a lot of things are about doing the opposite of what kind of standard advice there is out there. And there's a reason, because that is a way to free yourself and liberate yourself from a situation. And I think that is really, in the end, why when the going gets tough, the tough get going, and what motivates a person. And the way to break out of that cycle of, tough times, or, you're not motivated and you're trying to figure out, like, how do I get motivated, is to do the opposite. Go towards something that you never imagined you would go towards. That's what this card is saying. That is what you are, what you hate says. It says you claim to say that that you despise this job or that job, and in fact there's something about that job that is very much at the core of what you love about work. And finding out where that is in that job that you usually put out there is like, oh my gosh, yeah, never, no, I hate that job. I hate, or, when you think of something you criticize, or like, that kind of work, that's yuck. Try driving towards it in a way that says, what about this work is something that I am interested in? What's something about this work that I do love and don't hate? And that is a great way to motivate yourself, because when you're going towards that thing that you care about, that you love, that is meaningful to you, you're going towards something that's going to motivate you. And that's different from the card passions are for hobbies. And maybe this is why the cards want me to distinguish that, is because the passions are for hobbies card are about things that you are really doing in a way that you're like caring for yourself with it. The love and care and compulsion that's involved in what we're talking about in terms of going towards something that is the opposite of what we usually think we're going towards, and mixing it up in that way, but in a very strong way where you have strong feelings about it. That is getting in touch with something that is really meaningful to you and meaningful to your life in a way that others probably need. And so it's more focused on others. And a lot of times we express our relationship with that kind of work that is, we feel like, oh man, like I can't, it's like difficult work, you're struggling with it. Maybe you feel like being involved in that work that you despise, there's like people are demanding. Usually I find that's the case, that people like, or you think something's like, oh, something's off about it, right? Find out what's right about it and what's not off about it, and go towards that. So when the going gets tough, go towards something that you never thought you would go for before, and mix it up in that way, and that will motivate you and surprise you, which is the key thing. And that surprise will result in things getting going for you. So think about all of that today and let me know what you come up with. And I'll see you next time on Life's Potluck Buffet. Thanks, cards, for making this a tough episode about the going getting tough, because I think in the end I understand exactly what you're getting at.